Hey, what's going on, everyone? So I've just done my rounds of going over to Facebook and trying to gather everyone up for our lesson. Here we are. We're at the official lesson here at the YouTube channel. So thanks for joining, everyone. I'm Phil, and today we're going to keep our lesson series going on our month theme of expression. We're going to be getting into some fun new stuff today. But because we're still in the midst of this 30-day challenge, I want to take a moment to just say, you guys, we're on day 29 of 30. That's insane. So tomorrow is our final day. And for those of you who are keeping up live with the 30-day challenge, that means that today's lesson was playing the whole song all the way through at, I believe it was 75 beats per minute, which means tomorrow all we're doing is kicking that tempo up even more. So what I want to do is ask you guys to weigh in, like we have over the last few weeks, on how your experience with the 30-day challenge is going. Do you have questions about the content? Do you have questions about how to be practicing this stuff? I hope on day 29 we would have resolved that by now. But still, maybe you guys are hitting walls at this point, and that's okay. I'm here to help either way. So drop me a line in here about the 30-day challenge, and we'll get to that in just a minute. In fact, I'll give you a second just to go ahead and put your comments in. And what I'll do then is to talk about what we're going to be doing in today's lesson, and then we'll get back to the chat. So today, to continue forth our expression series, last week we talked about dynamics, how to play something loud or quiet, or how to use the contrast of different dynamics to express emotion. Later in the month, we're going to be talking about phrasing and some more conceptual things, but today is maybe my favorite topic when it comes to expression, and today's about rubato. So this is a term that essentially means the pushing and the pulling of the tempo, okay? So you've been, up until this point, you've been told you got to play even timing. And of course, that is true when you're just starting out. You want to be able to play the rhythms on the page accurately. That requires even timing. But once you've got a song down, or once you've mastered the even rhythms and the notes, and you know a certain song, now's the time for you to start to practice playing it with more emotion. And that's when you can start to break that rule of even timing. So when we talk about a push and pull of tempo, it's kind of in contrast to even timing. In fact, it's the opposite. We want to throw that out the door, out the window, whatever, wherever you want to throw it. And so let me give you just a quick example of this, and then I'm going to get back to the chat and we'll dive into the lesson after that. So I'll get into this song in a little bit later, but there's a song that we all know that uses some of this rubato approach to playing the even timing. And whether you knew it or not, you have probably actually participated in a performance of this song where you incorporated some of these techniques. And I'll show you what I mean. It's this song right here. If you looked at that song on the page, you would see some even rhythms going across. The metronome marking would not change. It would be something that you could count evenly. But traditionally, when that song is performed, we all kind of do a natural pullback of the tempo, and we kind of do a natural pause, and then we jump back in and we finish out kind of at tempo. I bet you didn't even know you were doing that, but there you go. So we're going to get into that technique today. We're going to talk about rubato. We're going to talk about the effects that it can have on the listener, and we're going to talk about ways to practice doing that better, okay? But first, let me go over to the chat and see how you guys are doing. I saw a couple of people saying, hey, up front. Excuse me. Lily Mae, Sarah Pickles, Terry. We got the crew in the house. Javier, good to see you. Cinna454, hi. Lynn, how you doing? Great to see all you guys again. Chad Miller, Tina Miller, what's going on? I think it was Sarah that said something that made me laugh. Oh, Sarah says, time for fun. Is that a command? If so, I'll try my best to make this fun. But I laughed at that. I said, you know what? It is time for some fun. Thanks, Sarah. Lynn says, how are you all this evening? Lynn, I'm doing great. It's been a long day, but I really look forward to these lessons in the evening. I hope you guys do too. I love seeing these familiar faces. And Lily says that she's sick with a high fever. I'm sorry to hear that, Lily. I'm glad you're still here hanging with us. But of course, if you got to get some rest, you got to go. You can always watch this live lesson another time. But I'm glad to see you nonetheless. And also, by the way, it was fun to see you over at the Theorist live stream. I forgot to mention that last week. It was cool to see him shout you out, Lily May. That was great. He is a really nice guy. So thanks for representing Playground too, by the way, in the chat. That was cool. All right. Any questions on the 30-day challenge? John Sandlin says, what's going on? No, he didn't. He said, hey, Phil. I'll say what's going on, John. Uncle Rabbit, good afternoon. Uncle Rabbit, remind me, what time zone are you in? Are you on Eastern time with us? All right. Lily May says, yay for expression. So I'm excited, too. Here we go. Here's some challenge stuff. Jesse Bowden, singer-songwriter, says, loved the challenge, stayed with it all the way, ready for tomorrow. Stoked. If you're here, if you've got the day 29, you guys, the hard stuff is over. Tomorrow is all about just retaining what you've learned and pulling it all up to the performance tempo. You may not be able to do it right away. 75 to 90 can be a substantial jump when we're talking about beats per minute. So feel free to 75, 78, 82, 86, whatever you got to do. And the more incremental steps you make with that metronome increase, the more you're going to be practicing that part, right? If you go from 75 to 90, that's 2 times. But if you practice 6 different tempos, that's 6 times. So don't be scared to take your own incremental steps. It can only help. I can't believe we're already here, guys. Day 30 is tomorrow. Uncle Rabbit says, more, I'm still not satisfied. Uncle Rabbit, we're going to be coming out with more, I promise. Let's all try to imagine one song, one challenge, one difficulty level that we could produce that would satisfy everyone. It would be difficult, right? So, because of that, our first one targeted some people, and the next ones we're going to be targeting the people who felt maybe like this one wasn't for them, all right? I just want to check in real quick with Aiden and make sure we're all good.
Overhead's out.
Oh, we lost our overhead camera. All right, I'll tell you what, we're going to stay at the full screen for now. That's okay, and I hope you guys can still see what I'm doing. Today's lesson is not going to be as much about copy the notes that I'm playing or look at this shape that I'm playing. It's going to be more about listening and observing the way that we treat the tempo. And so this may actually be a better view for that. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. Since we've already lost one camera, we don't want to test this too much. So what I'd like to do is first start with a pop quiz. You guys ever heard of a pop quiz? Who wants to get a free song credit? For those who don't know, I'm going to ask a question, and you guys will write your answer, and we'll pick our winners from the chat. I've got my team here. Aiden is helping me, and so is Andrew, and Andrew's actually moderating the comments tonight, so he'll be helping pick the winners. But what I'll do is I'll say, write your answer after you write a number 1. This is the first question of the day, so I'm going to ask that you write 1 and then your answer. It can be 1 dot answer, 1 dash answer, or just 1 answer. Whatever you like, but you have to put the 1 in there, otherwise it won't count. So our first pop quiz question is going to be about something we covered last week. I want to see how many of you were watching last week too. We talked about dynamics, and so what I want to ask is a 2-part question. There's a chance to win 2 song credits on this answer, on this question. I hope I'm not confusing things. I'm going to ask you, what is this dynamic marking called, and then what does it mean? You can answer 1 or both for a chance to win 1 or 2 points. You guys ready for the question? I'm going to let the suspense build a little bit. And what I'm going to do is look for the 3rd correct answer. Well, this might be a hard one to do with numbers. How should I do this?
All or nothing.
All or nothing. So first correct answer. I'll tell you what, we're going to switch it. First correct answer, you have to answer both of the 2 points of this question. You have to tell me what it stands for, what's the term called, and what does it mean? What does it mean when you see that? Do you play loud? Do you play quiet? Do you play something else? Okay? So here's the question. Pop quiz. What does this symbol mean? And just in case we don't see it on screen yet, the symbol is an MF. What does MF mean? Let's put a 1 dash, and then you can choose the order of whether you want to say what it means and what it's called, or flip that, okay? But that's what we're looking for. MF. If you missed the lesson last week, you may not know this one. So this is going to be a little bit of a preferential treatment to our repeat customers here, our repeat viewers. Who remembers what that is? We're looking for the first correct answer. You've got to put a 1 dash, and then you've got to have 2 answers for your answer here. You've got to tell me what MF means. What does it mean when you see that in the music? And then what is the term? What does MF stand for? All right, I'm going to play a little bit, and then I'm going to check in with the chat. Spelling does not count for now. Okay, I'm going to check in with the chat and see how we did. I'm seeing a lot of 1s. That's good. You guys are with me on the directions. All right, I'm going to read some of these answers. I'm seeing 1, mezzo forte, medium loud. I'm seeing 1, mess forte. I'm seeing 1, mezzo forte, moderately loud. Mezzo forte, medium loud. Mezzo forte, medium soft. Mezzo forte, kind of loud. Mezzo forte, medium loud. All right, the vast majority of you guys got this. For the winner, remember I said first one, and I'm seeing Dave. Dave, I'm sorry if I see your name multiple times here in these live streams, so I'm going to ask how you say your last name. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Is it Kalas? Dave Kalas. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the chat. I'll hit you on the next one. Sarah says, sorry, I'm dyslexic, LOL. Sarah, you don't even have the app. You can't be winning song credits, but I'm glad that you're still participating. And you were nice last week to give away your free song credit as well. So I just want to say the correct answer was mezzo forte, and the spelling, by the way, it's not going to count against you here, but let's see. Some people got the spelling right. It's M-E-Z-Z-O F-O-R-T-E, mezzo forte. Like pizza, pizza, mezzo, right? Z-Z, and then the vowel. All right, so our official winner for this pop quiz was Dave Kalas. Here we go, Dave Kolach. There we go. That was easy. You've probably had to say that before, Dave. I see you had Kolach prepped. That's good. Great, now I know. So Dave Kolach, you are our first winner. So MF, mezzo means medium or moderate, okay? Forte means loud. Piano means quiet. Mezzo, either way, it just means medium. It doesn't mean medium loud or medium quiet. Mezzo means medium. If it's paired with forte, it means medium loud. So that's why Dave won, and a lot of you guys also got the right answer as well. So great work. We're going to have a couple more pop quizzes throughout the day today, so stay tuned and keep those fingers warm. But I think we should get into our rubato lesson today, and I believe we're still probably out with our overhead camera. So Aiden is doing double duty over there trying to get our next scenes prepped. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about this notion of push and pull, okay? So that's where we are with rubato. That's kind of the summary of what that means. And I mentioned up front, we're talking about the tempo, the even timing of a song. Actually, let me break that down, because tempo and timing are actually two different things. So when we talk about tempo, we're talking about a speed at which we might play. And we typically refer to that in beats per minute. So 60 beats per minute would be a beat every second, right? Because there's 60 seconds in a minute. That's tempo. Now, even timing more refers to making sure that the rhythmic durations are all equal and relative to one another, so that when you count to 2 on a half note in measure 1, you're still playing the same speed of counting when you count to 2 on a half note on the final measure, for example. So can you keep your tempo the same from beginning to end? That's more like playing with even timing. But having said all that, we're going to toss that today, because rubato requires us to almost purposefully not play with even timing. We want to push the tempo sometimes for a certain effect, and we want to pull the tempo sometimes for a certain effect. And they do have much different effects, and combined in creative ways can have a great effect on a listener. It can bring a lot of emotion through a performance, and that's kind of the point of expression, playing with expression, expressing emotion through your playing using these various devices. So I mentioned up front that, and I played a little bit of Happy Birthday, right? So that actually is the demo that I want to go over to start. I want to talk about pushing and pulling tempo. And I think Happy Birthday is a great example, because we've all done that before. We've all had some experience with that, even before we touched a key on the piano or before we even knew what expression was. I'll play it again, and what I want to do is kind of call out my timing and my tempo as I go. See where that goes, and then we'll break it down a bit more. So Happy Birthday is in 3/4. I'm going to give you 2 bars of 3 to start. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Even for now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Now let's start to speed up a bit here. And then slow down. And we'll even pause here a little bit. When we jump back in, we're going to get back to our normal tempo, which will feel faster. Okay, I'll do it one more time. Ready? I'll keep quarter notes in the left hand. I'll start to speed it up a bit here, and then slow down. And speed back up. All right, so that's a very obvious example, right? And very direct and kind of contained example. That's why I want to start there. But when we're done with this example, I can show you more subtle ways of weaving this kind of approach through really any song, okay? Let me ask you guys, what kind of a effect do you think that has? When you listen to me do that and you feel me slowing down the tempo, can you use some words in the chat to describe what kind of a feeling that has? I'm already seeing one, actually. JD voice talent. I wonder if that person is a singer. I bet they're really good. JD voice talent says creating a dramatic effect. No doubt, it's very dramatic. And it also grabs your attention, doesn't it? If you have something that is keeping metronomic time the whole time, not with a lot of expression, it could kind of drone in the background. But if you feel something jump out at you and then pull back, whatever that may be, it can grab your attention, right? That's one effect. Drama, JD voice talent, definitely another effect. What else do we got? Let's see, I'm seeing some good comments come in. Lily Mae says, my first teacher always told me not to speed up and slow down until, and I hated it. It didn't feel natural to me. I'm glad you said that, Lily Mae, because I've already kind of addressed this notion that you have to kind of break the rules a little bit to do this. But let me talk briefly about when it comes to more advanced conceptual stuff. I'm not talking about advanced level songs or advanced level playing, but a concept that requires some fundamental understanding of the instrument already. Often it's difficult to discuss a concept like that so early on in somebody's learning, because you need to be grounded in rules sometimes to then later be able to bend those rules and maybe break them even. And so when we say things like a whole note equals 4 counts, well, sure, in the beginning, when you're just learning, that's a rule. But later, when we get into some more advanced time signatures, for example, we'll find that whole notes can mean different things depending on what note gets the beat. So if I was going to give you a rookie level lesson on time signatures, I would be hesitant to open up all those doors for you. I might instead just say, you know what, for now, whole note equals 4. And then later I might say, now that you're more advanced, let's bend that rule a little bit, okay? So the same thing can be said here for pushing and pulling with the tempo, Lily Mae. Your teacher was probably not wrong to say, for now, get it even. Can you play the rhythms accurately and evenly? And by the way, if you can't, you're not ready to start playing with expression yet. I don't mean you, Lily Mae, just anybody. If you can't play the song evenly, you're not ready to really breathe life into it yet. And so perhaps your teacher was alluding to the fact that you first need to get the rules down before you bend them or break them, right? And there's a lot of validity to that. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about how to push and pull the tempo if you didn't know how to play in tempo yet, right? So the effect that I believe this has, sure, if we have a dramatic slowdown, it can have a specific effect. But just in general, when we talk about pushing and pulling and contrasting the tempos, we talked about contrasting the dynamics last time, right? Now we're talking about contrasting the speeds at which we're playing. The effect when we have a contrasting tempos or timing, to me, is that has like a human feel, a human quality, which means that someone might be performing it live, which again grabs my attention more. It also can help to express the emotions that are already in the music. If you have something that is delicate and major, and you choose to do something a bit more emotional with the speed of that phrase, it's only going to pull out that innate emotional quality that's already in the harmonic progression or the melodic structure. It's going to add to the emotional sort of delivery that's already in the music. So in a way, you're kind of unlocking the emotion that the composer intended in the music by bringing it to life in a human way. So let's take a step back for a second, and what I want to do is just to do two more versions of Happy Birthday. I want to exaggerate something for you guys. I want to play it in a very non-expressive way, and then I want to play it in an exaggerated way where I might push and pull more than I normally would, just to give you guys a sense of the range of different ways to approach a song. I mean, this really goes to show how it can change the feel of the song just by pushing and pulling the tempo in different ways. So what I played earlier was the kind of the standard way that song is performed. Pretty even, but then we slow down into the happy birthday, dear someone. Then we finish it, right? So for now, what I want to do is no rubato. You can get a sense of what that feels like. And then I'll go extreme. Ready? It's not wrong, right? But it didn't feel very alive. There wasn't much emotion in that performance either. Now, to be fair, I also kind of played a simpler chords and stuff like that. I didn't mean to skew it, but I do think that stands. That it felt like a computer might have played that. Nothing wrong with computers, by the way. But you hear what I'm saying. By the way, playing in playground sessions is a great way to practice all this stuff if you then can shut the app or shut your screen and try to play this stuff in a different way. I'm not saying abandon your metronomes, but it can be a good supplemental thing. All right, let me show you now what I might do if I was going to exaggerate the push and pull of the tempo on this. In order to do that, I'm going to probably add a little more busyness in the left hand so that I can actually have some of those rhythms represented, so you can feel the pushing and pulling of the tempo more. But I'll try to keep it pretty straightforward chord voicing wise. All right. All right, so I lied. I did do more there. It's hard not to. But I hope you noticed what I was doing, and I hope you can still see my body moving despite us not having our overhead camera tonight. I hope that is still enough for you to see what I'm doing. And I'll do it one more time, kind of calling some stuff out. So I like to start very slowly. And then when I jump in like that, I'm adding some extra rhythms in there to exaggerate the fact that I'm speeding it up. So adding a bit more bells and whistles, I know, but the main point here is listen to what I'm doing with the phrasing and the tempo and the timing. I'm swaying and I'm speeding up and slowing down, speeding up and slowing down. I hope you can tell the big differences between the sort of non-expressive way and the exaggerated expressive way. Both may be too extreme for where we want to be in everyday life, but that's okay. It helps to define the parameters. Those are the extremes. Now, we want to be living in this middle area where there's more subtlety, right? We also want to be combining what we're doing here with rubato and contrasting timings with the dynamics that we talked about last week. So in the next demo, I want to talk a bit more about that. But first, let me jump back into the chat real quick here with you guys. Let's see what you were feeling about some of that happy birthday stuff. All right. Thanks. It's a major award. Dave, it is a major award. You earned it. All right. Lily May, I saw you there. Okay, here we go. Good. So Lynn Cartan says, it gives anticipation. That's exactly right. It pulls your ear in. You say, oh, what's next? I wonder what's coming next. Exactly right. Good point. Creates emotion. Yes. Sarah Pickle says it makes her seasick. Sure. I definitely was swaying a little bit dramatically there. I kind of got sick myself. That was to show you the extremes. I don't want to say that's how you should always perform, of course, but good point. You got me, Sarah. Uncle Rabbit says the code is more what you call guidelines than actual rules. Great point. I mean, instead of saying it's a firm rule and then break the rule, it's another way to say it. It's a good point. Is to just say that it is kind of a guideline, or to say that most of the time that's the rule. Either way, I think what is important is to remember that along your journey of learning, you don't want to open up all the mysteries up front. You want to kind of taper them. Otherwise, you'd be a bit overwhelmed. Okay, let's see. What else we got up here? Okay, so Jesse Bowden, singer-songwriter, says, like breath, exactly. I always want to bring you guys back to this notion of breath, breathing life into the music, imitating your inhaling and exhaling, and so on, all right? Cool. Feels a bit like, as you said, breathing. Yeah, good. I'm glad you guys are seeing the breathing, the tie to breathing there. JD says, the first take was a beginner take, like me. No. Look, I mean, there's a reason why we don't come out of the gate on day one with expression. I've been sitting with you guys long enough in these lessons now, and I know many of your names already. We've been talking about piano for a while now. I think it's time we get into this. But if you're day one at the piano, I'm not making fun of that style of playing in any way. And as I said, it's not wrong to play it that way. But we need to have something to work on over time to practice our expression. So if the way you're playing currently sounds a bit stiff and not a lot of contrast, it's not meant to make fun of you. All we're saying here is that there's some room to grow here in the expression territory, and I'm so glad that we're talking about it here. So if you're feeling like that was you, I hope you're really taking notes on this lesson to figure out how you can open up and breathe some more life into that. And by the end of today's lesson, I'm going to give you guys a little bit more info on ways we can practice this, okay? All right. How about we get into another pop quiz? Anybody want to earn another free song credit? We've been talking about a lot already in this expression month, so we are going to jump into another one. Now, last week we talked about dynamics, and my question today was a review question about dynamics. I would like to, let's see here. I like to keep these fresh and not too planned because I like to jump into the chat and see if I can riff off of what you guys are doing. So I'm trying to think here, what's a good pop quiz? I'm trying to decide if I want to go back to another dynamic question. People are ready. All right, Glory 3 is ready. Okay. Javier, that's funny. He says the second one is more like Happy Birthday, Mr. President. Yeah, right? She was taking more liberties with the tempo on that. Good call. All right. Let's see here. We're going to go with, all right, here's one for you. Ready? We're going to look for the third correct answer. And I want to know if anybody remembers, actually, we're going to go with first correct answer because this one may be a stretch for some to remember. Let's see if anyone gets this one. Opportunity for a free song credit. There are two different symbols that we might see in dynamics notation that tell us to gradually change the dynamics. One tells us to gradually increase the dynamics. The other one tells us to gradually decrease the dynamics. I'm going to play something for you, and then I want you to write down the name of the symbol that I am playing against, okay? So for example, I'm going to make this up. If one symbol was called blue and one was called red, you would write 2 dash red or blue. You write the name of the symbol, not what it tells you to do. So if blue tells you to get louder, red tells you to get quieter, your answer is not get quieter, your answer is red. Does that make sense? So 2 dash the name of the symbol. So this is a two-part question. You have to think about, am I getting louder or quieter in my example? And then you have to determine what is the name of the symbol that tells me to do that. Okay? I'm testing your memories here. I'm going to play a quick excerpt, and then I'm going to say, name the symbol that would have told me to play it that way. That's it. I'm looking for 2 dash, because this is the second question, 2 dash the name of the symbol that would have told me to play like that. I'll do it one more time. All right, now I'm going to play a little bit more, just riff around for a minute and let you guys add your answers to the chat. I think we have one. I'm seeing a lot of 2s come through. All right, you guys have a much better memory than I was expecting. That's awesome, because the symbol from before said MF, and that can jog your memory if you forgot. At least it gives you the initials. I left you hanging on this one, and I'm seeing a ton of correct answers in here. This is awesome. So my friend Uncle Rabbit was our first correct answer. The answer is 2 dash decrescendo. Great job, everybody. How do we know whether it's decrescendo or crescendo? Well, it's kind of in the name. Crescendo is to get louder, but decrescendo is to kind of do the opposite, right? I think it's a little obvious that de would mean to get quieter, but you guys all did a good job on the crescendo. Tina Miller said diminuendo, and a couple others did too. And John, that's not wrong. Remember, we talked last week actually about how that is just kind of another word for basically a similar idea. So I would not say that's wrong. But either way, Uncle Rabbit is our winner because that was the first entry. So great job, Uncle Rabbit. There's a free song credit for you. The answer is decrescendo, because I was getting quieter as I went. Right? A crescendo would have been. Okay, good job, everyone. All right, now let's get back into expression land here with rubato. And I want to look at another song example, another song that you guys may know very well. Another one that famously has a sort of slowdown and a fermata. Fermata is, by the way, the name of the symbol you would see over a note that just tells you to hold it. Not even slow down, but just hold it. And so, happy birthday to playground. Fermata over that. And then, happy birthday, right? So, in the Star Spangled Banner, which is the song that, you know, it's a sports song. Everyone kind of sports song. Geez. It's a sports song. It's a song that you'll hear at the beginning of sporting events where, again, someone will famously sing and sort of slow down and hold that note. So what I want to do is play through a bit of that. And I also want to bring back what we did last week a little bit. I want to talk about contrasting timing and dynamics kind of in the same performance. I want to build on what we're doing week to week. So I'm going to mess with this a little bit here and do some exploration on this tune. I'm going to try to perform it in a way that's very expressive, and then we'll talk about it. And excuse the train right behind me if you guys hear it. If not, forget it. taking my time with my phrases. I'm typically ending my phrases with a bit of a slowdown and starting the next phrase with a bit of a speed up. I'm also trying to put some dynamics into the mix. Maybe as I speed up, I'm crescendoing. And maybe as I pull back on the tempo, I'm diminuendo, decrescendo. Okay? So we can start to pair those things together. Or we can actually purposely mix those up differently than we'd expect them for a whole nother intended effect. In other words, we can speed up the tempo and slow down. We can decrescendo. Or we can slow down the tempo but get louder. We can crescendo. That can have another dramatic effect too. So I hope you can see that when you combine some of these techniques, it can really make the song very musical. I'm also experimenting a bit with range. I'm getting high, I'm getting low, I'm in the middle. That's for another lesson, okay? But those are also tools that we can use when we're improvising to express emotion as well. But I'm going to play it one more time through and kind of talk through my thinking, my decision making. And I want you to pay special attention to whether I am playing forte, piano, or some mezzo in between, and whether I'm crescendoing or decrescendoing, or whether I'm pushing and pulling that tempo, okay? Now, I'm going to start slow, kind of like I did with Happy Birthday. And I'm going to get into it. Slow a little down there. And then here it might be speeded up for contrast. Slow down. And speed up here. Quieter. Now let's get loud and faster here. Now quiet. Now I've kind of milked that, so let's speed things up for the next phrase. And get louder. Quiet and slow. And really milk this ending. That's for Andrew. Okay, so a bit exaggerated, but nonetheless, still musical, still listenable, still, I mean, it's not to the point where it's like a joke, right? I mean, that was still expressive. So I want you to take the limitations off of yourself when you're at home when it comes to experimenting with this stuff. Exaggerate. Don't be afraid to look like you're getting into it. Don't be afraid to slow down or pull the tempo back more than you think. And the same goes on the flip side. Don't be afraid to push it more than you think. What's the worst that can happen? You might find, oh, that was too slow or too fast, but now you know. And in the meantime, you've experimented with your own threshold, your own sort of edges of your capacity for expression and for playing with rubato. That's pretty cool. So, Star Spangled Banner, Happy Birthday, songs that both feel like they have that kind of push and pull built in naturally. Those are good songs to highlight this as a tool, as something that exists, something that can be learned and mastered. But really, you can apply this to anything. And that's kind of where I want to get. I don't think actually, let's see here. Let me take a peek at my agenda here. I would like to save the last pop quiz for the end. And what I want to do actually is just talk about practicing this stuff, okay? So when we have a goal of playing something a bit rubato, it's one thing to understand conceptually, oh, we push and pull the tempo. But when you go and sit down, it may be difficult to do. It may not come as naturally as it does in your brain as something that you can intellectually understand. Your fingers may need to play a bit of catch up, is what I'm trying to say. And so that's where the practice sessions come in. That's where the diligent, focused time is spent. I think you guys got it now in your heads, but you need to give your fingers a chance to get this stuff down. So, a couple of ways to practice this stuff. One, of course, when we're talking about expression in general, we talked about dynamics last week. I would encourage everyone to build a dynamic practice into your practice routine. Doesn't mean you have to put on a separate piece of music to practice with, but instead, whatever you are practicing already, whether it's a song in the app, scales, whatever, practice it a few times in contrasting dynamics. We talked about that last time, right? Well, for today, it's no different. What we need to do is get comfortable speeding up and slowing down. That's the gist of it. And so, just like anything else, if it's something you want to get better at, you've got to practice it. Now, there's a challenge when it comes to this stuff, and I mentioned this up front. I think I spoke about this with you, Lily Mae, in the beginning of the lesson, which is if you can't yet play a song with even timing, it can be really difficult to play it with this rubato feel. And so let me elaborate on that point a little bit. When you're practicing playing with rubato, it can be very challenging if it's on a song that you don't already know yet, okay? So this may seem obvious to some of you, but I think it's worth saying. If you want to practice this stuff, you've got to practice it with something you've already got down that you don't have to think about. You can call it autopilot or in your muscle memory or whatever. I bet for many of you, it might be the entertainer excerpt from the 30-day challenge because, look, we're on day 30 tomorrow. And so, but either way, whatever it is, the first point that I have here for you guys is don't just sit down and play something you don't quite know yet. If you can improvise, sure, maybe you can work on that. But for all you rookie and intermediate players out there, take a song excerpt that it could be a couple measures, it could be 4-8 measures of something you already have down. You can perform it under pressure. That's what you want to use to practice this new stuff, including dynamics. You know, you don't want to play a scale you don't know yet if you're working on crescendoing, for example. So you got to get the stuff down first. You got to get the rules down and you got to learn it right. Then we can start to bend these rules. And that's what you've got to practice. So I encourage everyone to take, whether it's a scale or the... Does this look familiar? Now, you can add some expression into this. Ready? Now, some songs you'll note when you try it for yourself, they don't lend themselves as well to that kind of flowy push and pull tempo. And when we have a song like The Entertainer, which is typically done kind of in this stride style, you typically want to have that bouncy, even rhythm. So I wouldn't encourage you to get really flowery and floaty with every song necessarily. But remember, we're not performing right now. We're practicing. We're in the shed, so to speak. And no one has to listen to that. This is about us getting our skills together. I would never perform The Entertainer like that. But you better believe if I was working on playing with the full range of the keyboard, full range of dynamics, full range of kind of pushing and pulling that tempo, you better believe I would practice that. That was a good save, right? I'm not going to perform that song like that, but it is a great challenge for me to try to use the full keyboard, try to use the full range of my tools, and I encourage you to do the same. The main takeaway is do it with something you already have down at even timing. And briefly, let me go to the chat, because I saw Andrew was pointing out a comment here. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. JD Voice Talent has a question. He says, so I've been a member for about 6 months. My question is, how can I get more agility with my fingers? I can speak to that real quick. So this isn't as much about an expression discussion, but since we are talking about how to practice better with this stuff, I can give you a drill or two for that. I'm going to give you the quicker side of this, but basically, when we're talking about finger dexterity and independence, there are certain exercises that work really well for that. Scales, arpeggios, and just basically just scales, right? And at the tempo that's comfortable for you, and then at the tempo that pushes you. But if you're specifically working on, and most people when they ask this question, they tend to be, if you're specifically working on how to strengthen up these fingers, or to get them as strong maybe as the rest, then I would encourage you to play anything with these fingers more often. And it sounds like a cop-out, but let me explain. There's some warm-ups you can do that really work these out, but honestly what I like to do is play something I know how to play and see if I can do it more with these fingers than these. All right, that's one thing you could do, but depending on the song, it's not going to be the best example. I'm going to backtrack on that. Instead, what I want you to do is to give you this specific exercise that I like to do, and that is this. And you can do it as a mirror image with your hands going towards each other, or you can do them kind of both going up or both going down. And that is, I've covered this, by the way, in other lessons. I just love it. I'm going to say it again. C to B flat, that's a whole step interval. And then we're going to go into the note we skipped, which is B. We're going to do that again, another whole step interval. So B to A, then B flat to A flat, A to G. And then what you want to work on is doing that evenly, all the way down. It's a really kind of a weird tongue twister. Whew. And that challenges me at a speed. Left hand, same thing, going up. Ooh, okay. And then on the way, kind of doing it in a mirror image can be challenging too. But until you crash in the middle. That will really test your keyboard knowledge. It'll also test the limits of these fingers. If you do that every day or every time you practice as a way to warm up, in a couple of weeks you're going to be like, hey, wait, these are my strongest fingers now. It's not an issue anymore. But it requires that kind of steady practice, focusing in on the thing you want to improve. That's the key. If you want to work on strength of these fingers, don't play a song that only has these guys playing for 20% of the time. Use them much more than these fingers and catch up, okay? I can talk more on that, but what I want to do, since we're running out of time here, is just kind of get back to the chat, make sure there's no more expression questions, and then we're going to give you guys one more chance to win a free song credit, and we're going to roll, okay? So, let me see how we're doing in the chat here. Yep. Mr. Rubato. Should be the next Styx song. Nice, John. You're right. We could play Mr. Rubato in a Rubato fashion if we wanted to. I think you should try that, John, and post a video. All right. So, I will say that, what about Hannon? Okay, I can speak to that. So, the infamous Hannon. We've mentioned that we have a Hannon course coming for long enough now. And so, first I'll say, apologies on the delay. It is coming soon, I promise. And we can't share everything with you guys, I hope you understand. But there was a reason, and that we had to kind of scoot that back in the production schedule. But it is coming very soon, I promise. Hannon, for those who don't know, was a guy who invented a very famous book of etudes, essentially. And they're still very popular and relevant today. It's arguably still the best set of exercises to build finger strength at the piano. And Hannon exercises are a series of different exercises that essentially what I just showed you with this, it's kind of like pattern-based, and it walks through the key of C. And so Hannon 1 looks like this. And then Hannon 2 is different, Hannon 3 is different. It's just hand exercises. They're super helpful. Short answer is yes, use Hannon exercises to develop finger strength and dexterity. Yes, 100%. And I would encourage you to try it in the Playground app when we do release it, because in addition to having the exact exercises from the Hannon books, of course we also have the tempo controls, the scroll bar, and all the bells and whistles that you guys love about the Playground app. Hannon is coming soon, I promise, guys. Pop quiz. How about that? We're running out of time, so I want to get to the pop quiz here. Let's see here. What can we talk about? I'm going to see who was listening to the bonus content earlier. What is this symbol called? I did this earlier. It looks like this. And the symbol means to hold the note. We're not slowing down anymore. We're just holding it. You're going to need to write 3, because this is the third question, and a dash, and then your answer. What is that symbol called? When we slow down, and we finally just land, and we hold it. I mentioned it earlier. I said that symbol is called a what? Does anybody remember? Was anyone listening?
What number answer we look for?
And we're looking for the first correct answer on this one. I'm seeing some come through. I'm going to let a couple more come through before I say what's right or not. And that doesn't mean what I'm seeing is wrong. I'm just going to let some more people answer. But again, that symbol would appear on the final note of this phrase. Right here. It's holding. And then we move on. All right, first correct answer, sorry I didn't say, goes to a name that I believe I do not recognize. I'm not sure if we've had Dr. Groovy in the house before. Dr. Groovy, what's up? You win. So you win a free song credit. That's awesome. The correct answer is fermata. Wow, great ears, you guys. I didn't even build that into our official lesson today. I just mentioned it, and you still got it. Awesome work. That's called a fermata. It looks like this with a dot, or it could be underneath. And that's what that means. It means just hold on tight for a little bit. Functionally, it means that, at least. If you have a conductor conducting you, they'll tell you when to come back in. Andrew conducts a 17-piece jazz band here in Akron. He knows what I'm talking about. Or, if you're just playing on your own, you could kind of take your time on a fermata. You're not supposed to wait like an hour, obviously. I think there's actually a real rule about it where, let's say you have a whole note with a fermata on it. You're supposed to 1.5. It's kind of like a dot, right? Where you have a dot on the end of a note, it means 1.5 that value. So a fermata would mean kind of hold it for about 1.5. But of course there's some leeway there too, I think. And if you wanted to have an extra dramatic effect, as we said earlier, we could hold it a little longer. A complete pause for a while. There's all sorts of stuff you can do like that. But that's what the fermata means. Great work on that bonus question. Dr. Groovy, my friend, you enjoy your free song credit. Guys, that's it. Next week, we're going to continue on our lesson about expression, and we're going to be talking about even more conceptual things here. We're going to talk about phrasing, and we're going to talk about combining all these things. We're going to talk about what these symbols look like in the music, and we're going to put more of that stuff in front of you to get the music actually more familiar with you guys. We're talking about it in a performance way in these lessons, but I also want you to be familiar with what it looks like in the notation itself. That's about it for today, guys. So next week, we're going to be doing the same day, same time, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. But we're going to try something new at the end of this month, by the way. Maybe Aiden can pull up the date and refresh my memory. But the 23rd of this month, thank you, Aiden. It's a Sunday. And what time are we going live that day, Aiden? I believe it's 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to try something different here, you guys. We've been doing the Wednesdays for a while. And I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces each Wednesday, which I love. However, I think we might be missing out on some audiences overseas who have said, hey, we want to come in and join too. So we're going to try to have some fun at the end of this month with another Sunday lesson. It'll be a little longer than usual. Maybe I'll perform a bit more too than usual. And if we like it, then maybe we'll try that at the end of each month. We'll kind of have a Sunday roundup, celebration, whatever you want to call it. But that's the end of the month. Next week, we're still on for Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I believe that's going to be the 19th. Whatever that Wednesday is. I'm Phil, and thank you guys for hanging with Playground Sessions for yet another live lesson. I'll see you guys next week. And this is called an augmented triad. So we got major. For dominant 7 chords, we have a major triad with with a flat 7. It's very similar to what Harry showed, but it has a bit more of a bluesy feel. So